It's been a while since I've done an Admirable animation on a drop pilot, hasn't it? Last time was, what, Dead Time Stories? I mean, there was the one time I talked about the modifiers in a trilogy thing. And come to think of it, this might have been a much better fit for the pilot that Nickelodeon dropped. While the modifiers was dropped out of stupidity, this one, Constant Payne, was dropped out of malice. I'll get into the reasons as we go along, but let's talk about the pilot itself first. This was made in 2001, and if it came to air, it would have been the first anime-based, action-oriented cartoon in the history of Nickelodeon. It basically would have been Avatar before Avatar. Now, this was years before Nickelodeon went down the toilet, but the treatment of this pilot proves they weren't always perfect. Fairly Odd Parents aired this year, SpongeBob was just getting off the ground, and in between we've got shows like Hey Arnold, The Angry Beavers, As Told by Ginger, and Invader Zim. Of course there was some rocket power interspersed in there, but no time period is perfect. So along comes this pilot that looks nothing like the network has seen before. Constant Payne is about the adventures of Amanda and her scientist father, Doc Payne, in a creative steampunk world. That description sounds fun, but it doesn't give the show the credit that it deserves. The art style seems very reminiscent of comic books, which is interesting considering that this was made several years before Danny Phantom. Immediately the show throws you into what kind of world it's created with its fancy gadgets, and the tone is set immediately afterwards.
No need to hurry at all.
Hi, Dad.
Amanda Sochi Payne, haven't I asked you not to disturb me when I'm experimenting?
Yeah, but I'll be late for school.
Fine.
Setting up those two things so early is quite an impressive feat, and the characters have very good chemistry too. They're small things, but they pile up really quickly and they really add on to each other. Then we learn the obvious, that Amanda's mother died in unknown causes, and they get the typical back and forth dialogue that you'd normally get from a father and daughter in a show like this.
Move over.
Come on, Dad, just let me drive this one time.
Way.
I promise I'll never ask again.
No, you're not old enough to drive.
I'm 14, that's old enough.
Not in this house. Besides, you're only 13.
13 in 10 months. That's almost 14.
If you're almost 14, then that means you're almost old enough to drive.
Really showing off that despite the world being different, the culture is largely the same comparable to our own world. That's not always an easy balance to strike. The animation is really good, by the way. The character designs are quite impressive, and the animation itself is really fluid, almost like something you'd see in a movie. No, expensive animation isn't why this show was canned. On their drive, we see the car get hit with a falling sailor person. Then Amanda sees that her uncle is skyjacking the ship. Dr. Payne goes in to save the day. And yes, the action is animated just as fluidly as everything else.
Buildings, move, please. Yeah, Dad, great autopilot.
Yeah, this pilot came out in 2001, so it would have been a very awkward coincidence. Although, I know there's no malice here. Even if this aired after September, an animation like this can take months to make, so it was definitely a stroke of bad luck. This, believe it or not, was only one of the main reasons that this show was canned. And that's the one that's most often being blamed for it. Doc Payne saves the crew, and basically keeps fighting. Meanwhile, Amanda is forced to fight as well, and she doesn't do that bad of a job of it, as the bad guys want a crate that's landed on the car. And then Doc Payne comes across his brother, an evil scientist.
When are you going to learn that I'm always prepared for every possibility?
Why do you always do that?
Because I don't play fair. Be seeing you.
Yep, they are definitely brothers. I could tell that the show has gotten the relationship down perfectly. So now Doc Payne needs to escape from an exploding ship. Meanwhile, the scientist, Wilton, lands on the car and takes the crate, or at least its contents. And we have a big action-packed climax during the escape.
I thought you were like dead or something.
No, me? Are you kidding? Ow, I'm burned there.
Oh no, I'm totally late for school. Ugh. Dad, this is the 10th time this month you've made me late.
I'll write you a note. Calm down.
You know what? I think I really like this show, and the entire pilot only takes place during a ride to school. So Amanda gets to school, and besides the kid who looks like he came right out of Digimon, it seems like a pretty typical school. Constant Payne was made by a man named Micah Wright. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And as we know now, it wasn't picked up, even though the test screenings showed that it was quite popular with all audiences. The problems were that, at the time, Nickelodeon hadn't really escaped the animation age ghetto. I mean, you can hear about all the censorship and stuff they played on Ren and Stimpy, but back at the time, they thought that all animation should be for kids. kids, and when things got too gross or violent, the higher-ups tried to bring it down. This is the network that censored the word "shut up" from the Angry Beavers, if you'll remember correctly. And yeah, the tower scene must have been really uncomfortable at the time. The lines that were used there could have easily been seen as a joke done in very poor taste. It's obviously not. I mean, like I said, if that was the intention, there would be no way this would have aired in 2001. Animation just takes too long to make. Even if they removed that scene at the time, though, after September 11th, Nickelodeon told the creator that they didn't want any action shows at all, and that definitely sounds like a reasonable explanation. The first cartoon that you could reasonably describe as action-oriented that came out on the network after the attacks was My Life as a Teenage Robot, which didn't air until 2003. Unfortunately, though, the most poignant reason to why this was shelved is because Mika Wright wanted to unionize the network. At the time, possibly even today, I'm not entirely sure, writers didn't get any residuals for their work. You get one flat paycheck for what you did, and that's about it. And it's not very much compared to what the actual network makes on things like SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents. Reruns, toy sales, and all that means nothing to the writers. Nickelodeon's attitudes towards unions has not been very good. The CG artists didn't even get unionized until 2013. They didn't even have unionized teachers for their child actors until 2015, and it took 9 years to get them. The network chose to use independent contractors, so they didn't have to pay taxes, workman's comp benefits, and they avoided paying the employer's half of the Social Security and Medicare taxes. In 2013, the Writers Guild of America West demanded $3 million from Nickelodeon because of chronically late residual payments and inadequate reporting practices. As for Mika Wright, ever since 2001, he has been a video game writer, for the most part. He joined the Writers Guild of America West and is chair of the Video Game Writers Caucus. He and his writing partner, Jay Lender, helped create the WGA's first ever Video Game Writing Award in 2007. As for his credentials, he's been a writer for League of Legends and Skullgirls, and in 2013, he launched a Kickstarter for a graphic novel called Duster. And unlike most Kickstarters nowadays, it seems, when he reached his goal, he actually went through with the project, and he actually finished it. And now it's just getting the word out. As for Constant Payne, Mika Wright still holds the rights. What he's going to do with it, if anything, is entirely up to him.